Yes, sir, you can start. We are live.
Hello everyone. Are you guys able to hear me? How are you all? Excited for today's session? Give me a big yes if you're excited for learning CSS, more properties, more HTML tags, right? Sir, I wrote the code, but the images were not coming in other devices, but it was showing in my laptop. Uh, Shahid Raz, you have to copy the images also to other device, not only the HTML file. Then only it will be displayed. Did you do that? Should we submit the assignment of all this together every day? You can do it anyway, not a problem. Good morning, guys. Where is the assignment question? So, did you guys not receive the assignment question? It was mailed to you, everyone, I guess. It was a very simple assignment to add couple of H1 tags and H2 tags. It's okay. At the end of the session, I'll discuss yesterday's and today's assignment at once so that there will be no confusion. Okay. The last date will be day after tomorrow. Correct. October 4th. Okay. So, shall we start, guys? Give me a yes. Shall we start? Yes, I'll zoom the screen, not a problem. I'm just setting up my system. Okay, let's start then. Okay, great, guys. Okay, so if you all remember yesterday, what we were learning was basically about we left where we were learning about the form tags, right? What do we have in forms? And we understood that we have two things in form. One is the input tag, another one is the button tag. So we saw basically how to create a basic input, and also we saw how to create a basic button also. But what we didn't see was how does this both work inside a form? What is the purpose of putting both of them in a single form? That is what we have to learn today. Okay. So I have already opened this file for you guys, and if you remember, this is where we left, right? So let's not use everything now. Let's comment out few of things so that it will be easy. Now let me just copy this also here. Okay. So guys, this is what we saw. Now as we saw, there are different types of input types, right? We had something like a text field, a color field, a date field, a password field, or an email field. Similarly, in buttons, we have three types. So the first type is submit type. Okay. Now, by default, this submit type doesn't. What it makes sure is we can assign a function using JavaScript and make sure what all data that we are putting in a form is sent back to the backend server. That is what we can use a button for. Another thing that the submit button helps is in terms of validation, right? So for example, what can be a validation? In some of the Google forms that you're filling out, you may be observing that there are some mandatory fields without which the submit button will not enable, or it will not allow you to submit the form, right? So how to do that, we'll see. So in this input field, there is one more tag called required. Okay. Now let's refresh this page. Now you see, when I, without giving any input, if I click on Okay, let me change the text also here. Instead of click me, let me put it as submit. Right. Um, yeah. So if you observe now carefully, when I click on submit, let me just check it out, guys. 1 second, guys. I think I'm doing some mistake here. This is a placeholder. This is okay. So spelling mistake that I have done. Okay. Sorry for that inconvenience, guys. Yeah, required spelling is wrong. Correct, guys. Sorry. So when I click on this, you will see this pop up, right? Please fill out this form. So this is what the submit button does for you. It helps you in validating the fields. Now, if I give some input here and click on submit, it works. You see that page is getting refreshed. If you observe carefully, the page is getting refreshed. But if I don't give any input and click on submit, you get an error like this. Correct? So we'll see another example, right? So we'll see another example. Let me copy the same field. Instead of text input, I'll give it as email input, right? If I give email input, what happens? Let's see. Let's refresh this page. Okay. This should be enter email, and yeah, that's it. So now if I give some input here, and if I give a dummy email, so what does an email make consist of? It consists of an @ symbol. It consists of a dot symbol, correct? But if I don't give that and try to submit, you'll see. Please include an @ symbol in the email address. The given input is missing an @ correct? Now, if I say like try ak@t.com, if I submit, you see it's working. But if I don't give anything, it says fill out this form, force this field, and if you see this, you're getting an error. So is the submit button clear, guys? Everyone, is the submit button clear? Next, we'll see another type of button that is your chat stuck, guys? I'm not able to see any inputs. Yeah, I can see 49 people online. I want S from everyone, right? So if I can get a quick feedback, we can learn more and more things, right? Clear. Next one is clear. The type is reset. So we'll see what does this type of reset do. Okay. So let me refresh the page. Now you can see two buttons we have, two fields. One is for submit. We know already how a submit works. We'll see how clear works. Now I'm giving a name here and say I am giving an email. Now, but clearly observe, guys, what happens when I click on clear. See, the fields are getting uh, back to the initial state. So clear helps you in doing that. And this works on all the fields that you have inside the form, right? So this is what the functionality of submit type and a clear type. Correct. And if you remember properly, I told you there's another type of button that is a normal functionality. So this normal functionality of a button is something for our user defined activities, right? So if you go to any of the website, right? Let's see some website. Meanwhile it loads. So you may or it takes you to a different page. Or sometimes you may have seen a slider movement, right? In the all this Flipkart and Amazon, our slide, our images will be moving. You'll have buttons on the left and right, like to navigate. So everything is a button here. So that is how the buttons work, help you out. So is the forms and buttons clear, guys, for you? So before we move on, I want to show you guys there is one more type of, the video is lagging a little hit, a little bit. I think it's with respect to my PC, guys. It's okay. Maybe in couple of minutes it will get set right. Let's see. If not, I'll try to reconnect with a different network or something. Yeah, cool. So there's one more. What do you say? Type of input field that is called text area. So in text area, what we have is rows. We can ignore this as of now. Name and ID. These are for when we learn CSS, we'll understand why those are required, right? Placeholder, enter, say feedback. Now observe this clearly. What is going to happen? You're getting a big box here, right? If you see, you're getting a big box here, and it is also, if I zoom out, you'll see it much better. So it's something like this, right? But let me zoom it out for you guys understanding. So also you have this small expansion button. So using this, you can increase or decrease the size of the input field, right? And also you can enter whatever information you want. So the two more properties here, you can see calls and rows. So when I say calls 30, it means you have 30 columns. So basically 30 characters, right? You can put 30 characters in a single line. And when I say rows, you can put 10 sentences in each row, right? Sorry, in the whole area, you can put 10 sentences. For example, if you want to see 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So you can see we have given rows as 10, that's why we have 10. Similarly, if you count, you'll have 30 here, right? 30 characters you can put. So you can customize the size of the text area using this tag called text area. I hope this is clear. And are we missing anything else? Okay. So there's one more thing, guys. I think we saw checkbox and did we see checkbox, guys, yesterday? Checkbox and radio button. I think we did not, right? Yeah, we did not. Let me just close this and let me show you type of what is that, checkbox and input radio. So if I refresh, are you guys able to see the small checkbox which I'm having here? No, sir. Okay, you're talking about the checkbox for them. I think chat is little delayed, but yeah, that's fine. So this is how you create a checkbox, guys. You give the type as checkbox. That is it. Very simple. So another type is radio button, right? URADIO. Yeah, I'm not making any more spelling mistakes today. Yeah. So you can see this radio button, a single radio button here, correct? So this is how you create a radio button. And these were the two more simple types that I wanted to show you guys. And I hope this is clear. And what else in form? I think I have covered almost everything. Okay. So yeah, there's one more thing actually, which is very interesting. And I think some of you may ask yesterday also about how to create a Dropbox, right? You, that is also very important. Let's see. So for Dropbox, we have a separate tag called select. So we can ignore this ID and name. These are for JavaScript and CSS. Inside each select, you have to put options. Value again is for when you click on that particular option, this the whatever value that you have kept in the this attribute will be sent back in the server. Here in the options, you can put whatever you want. Say for example, Apple, or let's have something like Google, Facebook. Okay, so let's see the screen. How does it look? So can you see this, guys? Okay. Use this. My bad. Yeah. So can you guys see this drop down? So we can create drop down like this also. The syntax is very simple. You have a select. Inside select, you put options. This is kind of a nesting, guys. So this is what we call as nesting. A tag inside a tag is called nesting, and you have to be very careful. So closing tag should be in. If I'm opening option tag inside a select tag, it should be closed inside the select tag. You cannot close this outside the select tag. That it doesn't make sense. Correct? So yeah. So this is it, guys. If do you guys have any doubts in HTML before we move on to CSS? Let me know now. I'm looking at your chats now. Is there any questions, any doubts as of now in HTML? Clear. Anushka Sheepat says date. So it's very simple here. So in the type section, you give it as date, and you'll get a calendar input with which you can select a date, right? So that's how you can give time also, week also. That is also possible. Shahid Riaz says HR tag. So HR tag is similar to this BR tag what we saw. So what BR tag creates is a new line for us. What HR tag does is it draws a horizontal line instead of a empty line, right? So if I'm putting a HR tag here, you'll see this a horizontal line. Are you guys able to see this horizontal line, right? So this is what a HR tag does, right? Himanshu says a quick recap. Don't worry, Himanshu. Like we'll be visiting HTML elements again in CSS because obviously we are gonna style the HTML elements, right? So I'll be covering up all the elements once again when we are styling them, right? So don't worry about that. I'll definitely use them. Can use HTML in HTML5. What do you mean that? I don't get your question, Rohit. Shayad, we don't actually use HR tags for creating lines and all. So we usually use CSS. So that makes more sense, right? So you don't want to have random lines using HR tag. So these are like application specific, as and when you need to use. So whatever I have thought, those are the basic tags, and that will be staying for a long time, and you need not worry about they're getting deprecated or they're getting modified in future. So whatever I thought, they'll stay for a long time, and it will be very clear that these are going to be the basic ones that you need. HR tag or the footer tag. Someone was asking about T foot and all. So these are all like whenever you need, you can use it, but they're not mandatory, correct? So that's how it is. So guys, shall we move to CSS? Are you guys excited for CSS? Let me know. Shall we start with CSS? Okay, so yes, so cool, cool. Okay, guys, great. So let me create a new file for CSS, right? Let's close this so that it will be there for reference. So again, let me create one new HTML file. So let's name it day2.html, correct? So guys, what we saw right now, and when you observed, many of you were seeing when we put HTML, we were only seeing the content, right? That is what the HTML is used for. But it doesn't have any style or shapes, right? It's not even arranged in a proper layout format. So that is what one of the what do you say? That is how that is what the HTML is used for. What CSS does, it makes our web page look good, presentable. It adds colors, fonts, sizes. We can do all of these things in CSS, right? So that is what CSS helps us in. So what does CSS stand for? So let me zoom this. CSS is muzzle, it styles our page. Yeah, Himanshu, correct. Yes, we can use our creativeness in CSS to make our page look more beautiful. Raj says cascading style sheets. Yes, guys, you are right. CSS means cascading style sheets. So basically, for our web page, we create a style sheet using which our browser reads the styles and shows our web page in a prettier format. Correct. So now the syntax for CSS is very simple, guys. You have a selector, you have a block like this. Inside the block, you have property. You have a colon, you have a value for related to that property, closing with a semicolon. Is this clear? This is a very simple syntax that you'll find in entire CSS, right? This is the only syntax that you need to remember for CSS. Now, what we are going to learn in CSS is we are going to use we are going to learn what are the different types of selectors that we have in CSS. We basically have three. And what are the different properties? Like I told you before, we have different types of fonts, colors. So each of them are a property, right? Color is a property, font is a property. And when you say color, what can be the value? So for color, what value makes sense is something like a red, blue, green. Those things make sense, right? So when I say font size, what makes sense is numbers, right? 10 pixels, 20 pixels. Those kind of units make sense to us, correct? And we can have something like a background color, right? Again, what can be a value? It can be a red, green, or something. So we look at all these kind of properties throughout our learning, right, from today and tomorrow. That is what we're gonna do. So before we proceed further, right, let's do the basic setup like we did yesterday, right? So what are we gonna have first? So this is a shortcut, guys. When you press exclamation mark and press enter in VS Code, it gives you a basic template. Template. You can ignore all these meta tags. These are used for your SEO optimization, all that stuff. And this is simply a language so that your browser can understand which language you're writing your code in, right? So we can ignore that also. We know title, right? We're gonna do CSS basics today, and we have our HTML tag. Inside our HTML tag, we have our head tag. Inside our head tag, we have a title tag. Then we have our body tag, and we have our closing tags of HTML and body. Right? Let me say a path. Is it here? Let me run it. You'll not be seeing it, right? Great. Please again, what do you want to again explain again, Rohit? Uh, I think your chats are stuck, guys. Give me a second. My screen is buffering, guys. Josna, is the stream working fine? Basic syntax.
Yes, sir, fine.
Okay. Thank you. So, Rohit, let me explain, right? So basically, we have a selector. So what can be a selector, right? We learned about different tags, correct? We learned about H1 tag, input tags, button tags. So though when you want to select that particular tag or the element, HTML element, we need some kind of selector. That is what we are going to learn. We are going to learn three different types of selectors that we have in CSS, right? That is we'll learn. And properties, it was very straightforward. You'll have something like uh, a color property, a background color property, a font size property, or types of font style property, right? Bold, italic, all that you can do with the help of something called font white. So we'll look into all these things. Don't worry, we are going to write only this line of code entire CSS. So it's going to be pretty much clear, right? Okay, Rohit. I think hope that's clear. So now, guys, uh, okay, let's move. Before we learn, uh, how do we style a particular element, right? So I want to tell you guys that we can write in three ways the CSS for our HTML file. Okay, the first style is called. Let me write it down so that it's clear. Three ways to write CSS. Yes, okay. First one is called inline CSS. Okay. Second one is called internal CSS. Third is called, you would have expected this, external CSS. Okay. So these are the three basic types of CSS styles that we can do. Okay. So let's look at each one of them and what is the advantage and disadvantage of each one of them. Okay. 1 second. Let me just clear off a few things on the table. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. Let me write a basic H1 tag. So we need a HTML element in order to style that, right? Otherwise, how will we see that? Correct? H1 tag. Say, let's say hello, right? So this is our tag. Let's see if it is come. Let me zoom it out. So I hope this is clear. Yeah. One and two types in HTML file. Yes, Rohit. Yes, Rohit. Yeah, you're right. I'll don't worry. Some people are still trying to understand, so I'll go a little slow. Not a problem. We'll understand one by one. So we have this HTML element, right? Now we have to learn how do we style this HTML element. So first type was inline CSS, right? So let's say inline CSS. So what we do is here we add an attribute called style. Just like we added many more attributes yesterday. So we have an attribute name also called style. And this style is applicable for all the elements in CSS, right? You can apply it for all the elements. Like you can apply it for P element or a input element. For everything you have a style property. You can style attribute. Inside the style attributes, you give a property. So we saw this syntax, right? What was the syntax? Property and value. So this is what we're going to. The reason why we are not writing selector is we are writing inside a tag. So don't need a selector here. Correct? So let's write the property. For example, let's write color property, right? So let's give blue. Save this. Let me refresh. Are you able to see the change, guys? So this is called inline CSS. So we give the property directly inside the opening tag of the element. So we can give multiple styles also, guys, here. So for example, I can say like, say for example, font size, right? Say I give it as like say 60 pixels. Okay. Maybe it was already 60 pixels. So let me give it as 100 pixels. So did you observe the change, guys? So like that. But the disadvantage of this is, if you have to give like say 10 different style properties, this becomes very clumsy, right? And it becomes very cluttered and it becomes very unreadable for a person. And moreover, we'll have styles for each and every property, right? So we can't keep writing each and everything in the same line. So for this reason, we don't prefer inline CSS very much, unless and until you want to give only single style, a very rare instance when you want to do it, you will give an inline, you'll follow this format. Otherwise, you don't use this attribute called style. Okay. I hope inline CSS is clear. Now, let's move to second type, right? Internal CSS. So let's create again. Let's create a p tag this time, right? So so here what we can do, we can similarly write style also here, but what we'll do is we'll not write it here because we understood that this makes it very messy and it doesn't look neat, right? Right? Not better understanding or reading purposes. So remember this head tag, guys, we have here. So inside this head tag, below the title, you can write it anywhere, but yeah, it's better to write it here. Sir, up live server. Yeah, we can use live server, Himanshu, but I don't want to use it right now. I want to keep it very simple for everyone, right? Because if someone is not using VS Code, it may become a little difficult for them to understand how I'm doing it. So this is better. Let's do it like this, okay? What will happen if you put style and font size after the text? I didn't get your question. What do you mean? Like you want me to put the style tag in the closing tag? We will always put attributes in the opening tag, right? So Himanshu, this should be clear by now. So we always put the attributes, attributes that you put in the opening tag. That's why, and order of this doesn't matter, guys. So blue color or font size, you can interchange them, doesn't matter. So as long as they belong into one property, all the properties that you have put will be there. Okay. So guys, as I was discussing the internal CSS, right? In order to style this p element that we have, so we have to come to head, and here we have another HTML tag called style. So we have a opening tag and a closing tag for style. Whatever you write inside here, right, that will be applied to the content that is written inside the body. So let's come back to our syntax. Select a property value, correct? Now we know the property. So let's write the property first. Let's open and close our brackets. Let's try to copy the same properties for now. Let's not use font size as of now. Let me have one thing, color. Later on we'll see different things. But if we can observe here, this color, the HTML page will not know for whom should this color blue should be applied, whether to the p tag or we have 10 more different tags, to whom it should be applied. So here we'll learn the concept of selectors, right? We'll see what is a concept of selectors. So if you want to select the p element here, correct, you write the name of the tag here, that is p here, nothing else, correct? You don't need to mention this brackets, the angle brackets here. You just need to mention name. If it was a h1 tag, you write h1 here. If it was an input field, you write input here. So what else we did? We learned list tags, right? Inch list tag or a tag, whatever the name of the tag, you just write it here without the opening and the closing brackets. Now let's see if it is working. Let me save this. Let's go back. Let me refresh. Let me zoom in a little bit. So can you see this, guys? The paragraph is colored into blue now, right? Why the live is blur? I think you have to increase your video quality. Go to advanced settings and change it to higher resolution, maybe 720p or 1080p. I'm actually seeing the live session myself, and it's really clear. Yeah. Himanshu, slowly I'll teach you everything about precedence also. One by one, let's learn everything because we have to go with the flow, right? We can't jump into topics. Yeah. So guys, did you understand what we are trying to do here? We had a p tag here, and we applied the that we need inside this HTML element. Correct? Whatever you write inside this will be treated as CSS. So here, if you see, the syntax and all is a little different. So whatever you write inside the style element is not HTML. It's basically CSS. Correct? So one one more thing. Say now I have two different paragraphs. Let me copy this. So if you are following inline CSS, if you wanted to style both of them, you had to manually write this style like this, right? So if you want to add style to different HTML elements, in order to do it via inline CSS, you have to add it in each of the HTML style property. But using internal CSS, what we can do is we are selecting the p tag. We are not only selecting the first one, we are selecting all the p tags here. Correct? Now, if I remove this, and if you observe, when I refresh, you'll see both the paragraphs have been changed, have been colored blue. So this is the one of the advantage of using internal CSS, using a selector, that is p selector. So what we are doing is we are selecting a type of HTML elements and we are coloring it. Correct? So let me add one more tag, right, for just to show you guys. H1 tag, say hello. Now if you see, currently it's not styled. So we can come here, say H1 tag, open bracket, close bracket. You can write color, say red. Refresh here, you will see that as the color is changing. Now guys, this is one type of selecting an element. But what if you wanted to have different colors to different p elements? Say I have one more p element, and you wanted to style the third one to be in green color, right? How do you do that? We can do one thing. We can do is we can obviously use a style attribute inside this, and we can give it here. That will work, but we'll not do that because we know why we should not do that. So there is one more type of selecting element that is called class, right? So let's see how that goes. So come to your element in the attribute section, give attribute called class. Inside class you can give any name, right? Say for example I'm giving here, say one here. Yeah. So if I written one here, how do I select it here? That is also important to learn, correct? So we can't write one directly here because we know the way you write directly name is only for HTML elements. So in order to select this class, what we have to do is we have to put a dot here. Once you put a dot, the HTML page understands that it is going to select a class of a HTML tag which has a class of one. Now you can write whatever style that you want. For example, green, right? So let's go back to the page. Let me refresh. So if you are you able to see this, we have a green color now. Raj says class and ID. Yes, we'll learn about class and then we'll go to ID. Yes. So this is this is the advantage of using class, guys. So you can, if you want to customize a particular HTML element using a different style, you can give it a class and go back to your style place and write all the required information here, right? So yeah, that is one thing. Now you can give this class to another element also. For example, if I want to give it to the first element, if I come back and refresh this page, you can see the first and the third paragraphs have been in green color, the second one is in blue color by default. Correct? Because if you observe here, for all the paragraphs we are giving the color as blue, but later on we are overriding that what are classes that has what are elements that has a class of one, we are giving it as green. So this is one thing you need to remember very carefully, guys, that class a single class name can be given to multiple HTML elements, and also a single HTML element can have multiple classes. So what do I mean by that? So now you saw like you have a class called one. Now if I give a small space here and write one more class, say I have a class name called two, and I have something like, now I want to give a new property, for example, say background color, aqua, right? So what will happen here is this class this element of P will have properties of both one and also two. One has a property of color green, and two has a property of background color aqua. So let's see that. Correct? So refresh, you'll see the background color of P has changed to aqua and the color is green here already. Correct? So this is what it helps. Himanshu says repeat. What do you want me to repeat, Himanshu? The sentence I said about classes. Let me write it down also, right? So that you can take a screenshot or something. Same class can be given to multiple HTML ELE elements. Also, one HTML element can have multiple classes. So this is the general rule of thumb for classes, guys. So if you want to take a screenshot, you can take it. So this is the general rule. The first one, same class can be given to multiple HTML elements, correct? So I gave class 1 to this, I gave class 1 to this also. So we can do that. And also, second rule is for the same HTML element, you can give multiple classes also. I gave one also, I gave two also here, right? So this is a advantage of classes. I hope this is clear. Clear, guys. Before I move on to ID, I want S from everyone so that I know that you guys are understanding this, because this is the important thing, because we're going to use this a lot. Correct? We're going to use this a lot. Clear? Give me a yes. I'm seeing your chats. Yes, yes. I have 55 people. I'm seeing only 4 5 people replying from that time. Come on, guys. Give me a yes. Okay, great. So let's look into another type in which we can style an element, right? So just like class, we have something called ID also. So in ID also you can give something like some name, say not second, it will confuse you guys. Maybe uh, P P color, right? Let me give it as P color, right? But here also, when you see for class we were giving a dot operator, but for ID we have a hash symbol. We have to use an hash symbol. So once we use that, we'll have access to this ID, and we'll have access to this element also. All the styles that you apply inside this, for example, say color, uh, like corals. Okay, save this. You come back here, and if I refresh, you'll see the second paragraph. The color is changed here, right? The second paragraph color is changed. So you can use ID also for doing the same thing. Now you may ask, what is the difference between ID and a class, right? That is very important to understand. So it is always a good practice, right, to use. Uh, it's not a good practice. It's actually something like a standard that we follow, right? It's a rule in W3C that we follow, saying that ID can be given to one particular ID, like here the P color can be given only to one particular HTML element, not more than that. So that is what, when you want to target a specific element, you can give ID. And so that if you have multiple, if say you have 10 different p tags, and if you want to target a particular p tag, you can give ID there, because you can use class also, but ID also can be used. Moreover, ID, the more particular use of ID, you will be seeing it in JavaScript than in CSS. We rarely use IDs in CSS, but it's good to know that it's there, right? So that's it. Let me write the difference also so that it's clear for you guys. ID, right? You only which is assigned to only one HTML element. Clear, guys? ID can be given to only one HTML element. Class can be given to multiple HTML elements, and also you can have multiple different uh, classes for a particular element, right? That is the thing. So is the selectors concept clear, guys? We saw three selectors. That is name selector, the tag name. This was really clear, like a p tag or a h1 tag, right? Next we saw class tag that we use operate using a dot. Then we saw id, that one we use hash, right? Is this clear? So if you use same ID to multiple elements, what happens? Nothing happens. It works, still works, but it's not a good practice to use it. And moreover, we don't use IDs for styling, guys. We use it for JavaScript elements. So, like say you have 10 different input fields, and you give 10, all the 10 different input fields a different ID. So you know each input field has a different ID. Using that ID, you'll be able to select that particular field using a JavaScript, correct? So that is advantage. If you give multiple elements same ID, what will happen? You'll not be able to select what you need. That is the reason we have IDs, right? It's something like a USN or a roll number in your university, right? So it's unique to you. So if two people have same roll number, you understand what's the problem there, right? So that's how it is. Understand ID as something like your roll number or something like that. It's unique to a particular HTML element, and it's better to use it for only one HTML element. That's a good practice. That's a convention that we use, right? And each HTML tag can have only one ID. It cannot have multiple IDs also. Correct? Yeah, it's like that. So is the concept of selectors clear? We saw tag name, we saw class, we saw ID. Is all three clear? Yes, it's clear. Okay, great. So is the concept of internal CSS also clear? Because we covered both simultaneously, correct? Both are clear? Internal CSS, writing whatever we wrote in inline inside a style tag is called internal CSS. So if that is clear, we'll look into the third type, that is external CSS. If you have understood internal CSS, external CSS is really simple and straightforward. What we basically do is, instead of writing all our style inside the HTML page, right? So if you have, say now, you can observe like having only 4 different styles, it has already occupied a lot of space. What we can do is we can have separate file for styling and link that file to this HTML page, correct? So let's try to do that. Excuse me. So we'll create a new file. Let's name it day2 style. So here the extension is, guys, is called CSS. Just like we had for HTML page .html, here we use .css. When I press enter, a new file will be created for us. Okay, so it's very simple, guys. What we need to do is we need to copy all this styles here and we put it in the style page. That's it. There is no change in syntax for CSS. Everything is straightforward and similar. What we basically do is we just copy all our styles and put it there. So we can remove this, or for now I'll just put a comment it out here so that it's understandable for later reference for you guys. So here it's we have put your styles, but you have to if you think properly, what we are doing is we have two different files and these two different files are not linked. How will this HTML page know that it has to take styles from this CSS page? So that is what we are going to learn. So for that we have something called a link. Correct? A link tag. It's like this. So here we have two attributes again. The first attribute is called REL, which stands for relationship. So it basically says, hey, I'm gonna link a particular page and it's gonna be style sheet for your HTML page. That's what it's gonna say. Correct? So what is href? Href is nothing but hyperlink reference. Correct? Here we'll simply link the page that we just created. Just like we did media tags, right? Here we have to link the CSS page that we have created. So this line makes sure that your HTML page and the CSS page are connected. Could you please add attendance link in the description? They'll add it. They'll add it, Gokul. Don't worry. We have a lot of time. They'll definitely add it. Okay. Don't worry about that. Yeah. So if I save this now, you'll see. So let's first see without saving it, right? Let me not save it. And if you come back to the page, all the styles are gone. So once I enable this, if you see here, if I refresh, all the styles are back. So that's the uh, better way of doing CSS styles, right? So we have a separate CSS page. We access everything here. The way we are linking it is using this style tag. So remember this, guys. This is for external CSS. Okay. This is called okay. Yeah. I hope this is clear, guys. Is the concept of writing the three ways of CSS, the concept of writing different selectors, tag name, class, and ID. If these three things are clear, we'll start learning about different types of different properties that we have in CSS, so that we can, now that the basic concepts are clear, we can learn more about different styles and different properties like the layout properties or the color properties or the font properties now. Okay, so give me a big guess, all the 57 people of you. Come on, guys. What to add in relation? So, relation basically says what kind of page are you linking here. So if it not for in this case we are adding a style sheet, right? So we are saying the HTML page go to this path and take that file and treat it as a style sheet. So what it basically does, it takes everything and puts it to this HTML tag. It basically converts inside the browser. That's what happens here. Okay. Okay. I hope this is clear. So what else should we cover? I'm seeing your chats. Give me a yes. So please explain that again. When we learn about div tag, yeah. Next, Jaideep, we'll learn about section tags now. Not a worry. We'll start with section tags now. Don't worry. Okay. Once have a look at CSS sheet. It's the same thing. I have not changed anything, Rohit. Whatever styles that I had put here, I'm just pasting it as is. I'm not doing any change here. We'll just we are following a basic syntax, right, which we learned here. Selector, property, value. This is the selectors, correct? These are the three types of selectors that we have, and these are the values, right? Great. So I hope that is also clear now. Okay, clear. Great. So difference between class and ID selector. Satvik, Satvik asked. So yeah, so understand this, right? So the class name that we give, it can be given to multiple elements. So you can, as we saw in the example, right? So we gave class one to both the first element and the third element. That is possible with class. But for ID, it's unique to particular element. You cannot give, sorry, you cannot give ID same ID to different elements. That's not possible, right? So that's the difference between when you want to select a particular element, not select other elements, you can use ID. When you want to give same type of behavior to multiple elements, you can use class. I hope that's clear, right? So guys, if this is clear, let's move on to the next concept, that is section tags. Little bit of HTML back. So guys, section tags, or we can call them container tags, if that's better way. Container tags, right? So this is what we're going to learn now. So let's look at some basic website, right? For example, let's go to amazon.com. Yeah. Okay, it's taking some time. Let it load. Yeah. So if you see this page, guys, what is happening here is you're seeing that everything looks kind of a box shapes, right? Everything is in a particular container thing. So if you see the first top line, you will see this logo, this there's this search bar, here the flag of the country, some details on the cart, everything is in one section, right? So if you can see, and if you understand, second line also a similar way. Then we have this banner kind of thing and little bit of boxes everywhere, right? Everything, if you see, it's kind of a structured manner, correct? So what they're basically trying to do here is there. So for example, this say, let's think this is as an image tag, this is some kind of a p tag, this is some kind of input tag, again some kind of a button or something, right? They have some, all this they're putting inside one container. So there are different types of container available as of now in HTML5. So let's learn them, right? Let's see what are this. The first container tag is called div, right? What this div does is you can have all your HTML elements inside this div. So when you style this div, all the elements will be applied to the child elements also. For example, here also, like, we are already seeing this. If you have a body element, inside this body element, we had so many h1p elements, right? So body element is acting like a container element here, correct? So that is also one kind of a container element we can say. For example, now let's see div element, right? So div is like this. You have opening bracket and a close bracket for div. So inside this, say you have p element, some data, h1 element, say some data. So when you apply style for this div, right, it will be applied. Say you applied color red, so it will be applied to both this p and h. That is the advantage of container. So when, or if you want to move this div to left or right in your page, all the contents inside this page, inside this element also will be moved. So that is the advantage of using containers. Sir, is there any use of id? We use IDs mostly in JavaScript when you want to target particular element, right? So if you have an input field for username, you give an ID to that, and using JavaScript, we fetch the ID value from that ID. So in JavaScript, we mainly use ID. Or if you want to target particular element in whole set of elements, we use ID also there. But mainly we use class. That's pretty straightforward. Try to use class as much as possible, and it's really good and it's very simple also, right? So that's it. So we have this div element here, which acts like a container. Now, in HTML5, guys, we were introduced with few more container tags. For example, header tag, nav tag, footer tag, and what else we had? We had section tag. We had some more like article tag. We had aside tag. We had, uh, I think, That is pretty much, yeah. So what basically all these different tags does is the same thing. They don't have any difference in functionality. All these tags do the same thing. They carry all the child elements with them. When the parent element moves, other elements also move. That's the only difference. But why do we have different elements? So like say, as we saw this here, right? So when you want to design your web page, you can put all these elements in the first line inside a nav bar. When you want to design your web page, you can put all these elements in the first line inside a nav bar. So that is the only difference. But when you want to design your web page, you can put all these elements in the first line inside a nav bar. So that is the only difference.
Guys, maybe network issue. Will be sir joining in a minute. Just wait for 2 minutes. Meanwhile, guys, you can mark your attendance for the day. And if you have any queries, you can ask me here. Himanshu, this is 3-day course and 1 day for the career and guidance. On Monday, there will be career and guidance session at 7:30 p.m. Please do join that also. And tomorrow is the last day for this. Himanshu, you will get the assignment by the evening. Yeah, Gokul, we will change it in the description also. Meanwhile, you can access the attendance link from the pin chart. Jaydeep, as of now, there is no, but in future we are planning for the same.
Guys, I'm sorry, are you able to come?
Anish, if you are not able to join the class tomorrow, you can watch the recording also. It will be available on the YouTube. Yes, sir. You are audible now.
Okay, let me share my screen. I'm sorry for the interruption, guys. There was sudden power down, my Wi-Fi went down. Are you guys able to see my screen? Please confirm me.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay,
Uh, Sorry to
no
disturb,
problem.
sir.
Thank you, guys.
Guys,
Thanks, guys,
assignment.
for understanding. Yeah, please
Yeah.
continue.
Uh, Guys, assignment questions are uploaded in the community. Please check. It's there. Yes, sir. You can continue.
Thanks, Shahid, for waiting me. Thank you for that. Okay, so where did I interrupt my connection, guys? Did you guys understand what I was saying about content attacks, or do you want me to repeat about content attacks? Content attacks is clear. So basically, it moves all the content inside it with them. If the content color is changing, everything changes inside the child elements. रिपीट करो एक बार सब यूज होगा ठीक है okay so So guys, nothing much complicated here. It's the simplest of all the tags. That's why I kept it for the last, right? So basically, any of these tags that we use is going to serve only one purpose. The elements inside the tags will be having the same property as the parent. That's it. So if your div element, say for example, I'm giving class here of main. So if I apply some style to this main, say I give color red, it will be applied to all the child elements. And if I say I move this div using this class to say to the right side of the screen, right? All the elements inside that also will move to the right side of the screen. That's the only thing about containers. So in order to group elements together, we use containers. That's it. Which tag we use in different scenarios. So as we saw here, right? So what is happening here? You wanted to create a nav bar here. So you use a nav tag. Then you want to create a head, something like you want to put a heading or a big Great Indian Festival something. You want to put a heading tag inside which you put this banner or something, right? So if you come down, you have all these different sections, right? So here what you can do, you can use a your main tag. If you come down, you have this footer. So you can use a footer tag here. So this helps in search engines to better serve you, better understand that this website has all the required content in a proper way. So it helps in optimization and bringing up your search results in the top. That is what these different containers help you out. Otherwise, if you use div, not a problem. You can always go with div. It will work just as any other tag. Okay. I hope that is clear. Jaidi. Yeah. Okay. So if this much is clear, let's go to next topic, that is size. How to give size for different elements or different containers. So guys, this is something called box model that we are going to discuss now. Okay, I want you guys to concentrate for next 5 to 10 minutes so that this will be really clear to you guys. Okay, stop spamming the chat if anyone is doing that. Yeah, I can see some people asking same question again and again. So concentrate for next 10-15 minutes. We'll learn about the box model once and for all. It will not be confusing for you rest, right? Okay. So now let me just remove this content here for now. We have this main class. Let's go to CSS and let's write dot main open braces. Now guys, one more thing here. So if you want to comment anything in your CSS, it's just like HTML, control and a hash. It will comment. It's something like an asterisk symbol and a forward slash and a backward slash. If you observe here, that is how you comment anything in CSS. Okay. Now let's look into our div tag, right? So as of now, if you see, I go back to the screen. If I refresh, you will not see anything because div is a container tag. It doesn't have any, it doesn't occupy anything, any height or width by default. We have to give it manually, correct? So let's give that first. The first tag that we are going to give is called height. Say height is 250 pixels, right? Next, let's give some width. Width say 450 pixels. Yeah, and let's give some background color so that we can see it. Aquamarine, right? So if I zoom out, you can see. Are you able to see this box, guys? So this is what a div looks like. If I zoom out, this is how it will look. But let me zoom in for now so that you're able to see this, right? This is how a typical div looks. Now you can have whatever content that you want inside this, right? So now let me go here and place some content. H1 tag says hello. You see now, if I refresh, you're able to see you're able to see the content inside the element. Now if I move this element to left or right, the H1 element also moves, right? So now what we're going to learn is something called uh, another three properties actually we're going to learn. I'm going to write it down here. The first two we already learned, that is height, width. Now what we're going to learn is something called padding, margin, and border. We're going to learn about these three things. What are the differences between the height and width, and what is this padding and margin are going to do. Okay. So first, let's see what is padding, right? Say I'll give padding as 50 pixels, and also let me reduce this size so that I'm able to see this properly. Okay. So guys, one more thing is, if you observe here, what happened was this element of H, the content inside this got moved little from away from the border or from the edge, we can say. So what is happening here is the padding 50 pixels which I gave here is applied all around the div element. 50 pixel from the left, 50 pixel from the top, 50 from the right, 50 from the left. This is what is happening here. Correct? Now, if I go to inspect, how do you inspect? Right click on the element. There's an option called inspect. Click on that. So another window will open. something like this. For you guys, it may be like this. So here in the last, you have three dots, right? Using that, you can adjust where you want to see that, right? Now I have attached it here. Let me just adjust this also. One more thing that I want to say is, let me not put this as h1 tag. Let me just put this tag as hello as of now. We'll come back to the h1 tag in a bit. Okay. So guys, if you see this div element, what we're having here, this 400 by 300 what size I gave you guys was the actual size, that is the height and the width. The 50 pixel I gave you, which is highlighted as of now, is around the div element. This is something like an I can say the dummy space or extra space or a fake space, what we call it usually, is all around the div element. So why do we use this? So now say you have two elements adjacent to each other and you want to create some kind of space, right? So in that it helps you out. And even if you observe any of the HTML page, we usually prefer some kind of a gap from the edge, right? We don't start from the start. Even if you uh, observe this tag here, if you see the CSS basics has some gap from the edge, so that fake space that you see or the extra space that you see is called padding here. Okay, we can apply the padding all over the from all the sides of the element, div element. How do we move to left? Yes, we'll see about how do we move also, we'll see. But it's not actually a movement, it's actually giving extra space which creates an illusion of moving. Let's see that. So is the padding clear, guys? And one more thing you have to observe is the how much of padding that I'm giving. It is taking the same color as the parent. That's the main HTML element. So this has aquish, even this has some greenish color, right? So padding takes the same color as the main element. You have to remember that also. Okay. And in padding, you will not have any content. Content will be between the height and width of the element itself, right? Yeah. So let me just change this color to red for now, right? And let's see another property that is called border. So guys, border is something like it's also an extra space, and it's you can give different shapes to different what you can say designs to the border. Padding was plain as if there was no difference between the element. That's how the padding looked. But border is something like you can style it out, and also you can give size to it. So let's say like, we'll give size of 10 pixels, right? And say border we can give, as I said, different styles. For now, let's look at how the solid works. And say for example I want to give the color black. Let me save this and observe this, guys, what is happening. We have the 400 by 400 as the initial height and width, and we still have our content hello inside that, right? We have 50 pixel of, if you observe here carefully, it is changing to some yellowish color, right? So that is the padding that we have. Then we have 10 pixels of border, correct? Can you see this 10 pixels of border? So we have this border also. It's also an extra space, nothing. It's one of the design styles that we have in options in CSS, and we can give different types also for this border, right? So we saw solid. So let's see something like dotted, right? So let's see how the dotted looks. Let me refresh. Are you able to see these dots? This is how the dotted looks, correct? Let's look at one more style, dashed. So you'll have small lines coming instead of circular lines. So this is how the dashed look like. We have double. So double creates two different lines, two different borders effect it gives, right? and also we have rigid. So this is little different. It gives a effect of a frame or something, you can say. uh, I think you guys are not able to see this. Let me just change the color from here itself. We can change the colors here also, it's not a problem. So yeah, if I change it to yellow, are you able to see this difference? It gives us some kind of a frame effect. Confirm me, guys. Did you understand the border property and the padding property? Is these two clear? If this is two is clear, then we'll move to margin. But this has to be clear. I want S from everyone. I'm looking at your chats now. Let me have some water in there. Arun says yes. Everyone says yes. Okay. If this is clear, let me change it to solid. So we usually use solid or sometimes dash or double, but I usually prefer solid. That's the best one, right? So now next we'll look into something called margin. This will be the last topic of the day. So please concentrate, guys. So margin, say I'll give 25 pixels, right? So observe this carefully. What is going to happen here when I refresh? Did you observe, guys? The element got shifted from little bit from the left on the top. Did you observe that? Be responsive, guys. Yeah. Did you observe the element getting moved from the left and the right and from the top and left? So here, if you see, let me decrease a little bit. Also decrease the size. So if you see here, when I select margin here, you are able to see 25 pixels from the left top and the bottom, but from the right side it's occupying the entire screen. Whatever is left out, it's not 25 pixel, it's more than 25 pixel, correct? So this is one concept that you have to understand here, that yesterday I told you, I gave a hint about something called block elements and inline elements, correct? So we'll see what is it now, right? 1 second, let me open a small image which I fetched from the Google. If you observe yesterday, that's coming one beside the other. But when I gave you HTML heading tags, you saw them coming one below the other, like H1, H2, H3 you were seeing. But when I gave some input tags, you were seeing one beside the other. So that is the basic difference between a block level elements and the inline level elements. A block level elements always starts on a new line. So if you have 10 block level elements like an heading elements, each one of them starts on a new line, right? But you have a 10 input fields, you will see them all in a single line, correct? Or if the screen is up, it will go to the next line, correct? So that is a major basic difference between the block level element and a inline element. And also you have to remember, all the block level elements are placed vertically, one below the other. Inline elements are placed horizontally, correct? And also for block level elements, which was one of the examples as div, you observe that I gave height and width, but for inline elements we cannot give height and width. Okay, by default the inline elements doesn't have any height and width. Remember this, guys. So in order to solve this, we have a property called a display property. So here basically, if you currently observe in the inspect, this div has a display of already a block. We did not give this. So by default, these are some default properties certain HTML elements has, correct? So this div has a block type element, because of which the margin on the right side is expanding till the end. So if I create another div, for example, let's go here. let me create the same another div here, right? And let me just comment this for now. If I refresh, little bit decrease size. So the content is not important, guys. See this shape here. So you observe that the div elements are getting placed one below the other. This is because of the type block, correct? Now, if I give inline, for inline elements, I cannot specify the height and width. So what we have is a new property called inline block. So when I give inline block, what happens? Carefully observe. When I refresh it, you see them coming one beside the other, and you see this display inline. This display block has been overridden by our property. And if I see the size, it's exactly 25 pixels all around from all the sides. Is this clear, guys? Is the margin clear? So if you give margin left as like say 60 pixels, you will have an effect of the div moving 60 pixels from the left. So that is how you move elements and adjust elements. One way of doing it, we have some more ways of doing it. We'll see that tomorrow. But today the time is almost getting up. So tell me, guys, are you guys and have you guys understand the box model clearly? Is everything clear? Give me a yes or no. Box model clear. Write it down in the chat. Is the box model clear? Anything, any questions you want me to explain it again? Let's do it now. Because if this is clear, half the things will be clear. We have almost completed like 30 to 40% of CSS now, right? Basics of CSS or everything we have covered, right? Okay, see, this one last thing that I want to tell you guys. So if you observe the margin here, right, there is little bit of space in the top, under top on the left, a small gap. If you can see a white color space. So what is this, right? When you create an HTML page, by default, the browser, the HTML page adds an extra margin there. So if we go to body here, see this 8 pixels that the browser or the HTML page that has added. So we don't want this, right? If you see the Amazon website which I showed you had everything starting from the edge, right? It did not have any extra space like this. So how do you remove this? So the simplest way to remove this is we select the body tag, we write margin, as 0 pixels. Once we do this, you will observe that this 8 pixels is gone. Observe carefully when I refresh it. Did you see that? There is no margin now for the body. So many of the elements, like even the H1 elements when I wrote, it also has some kind of margin or padding, right? So what we do is we have something called a universal selector. That is nothing but an asterisk, right? The star symbol. When you put star symbol and put margin and padding as 0 pixels, so it's understood that for all the elements in our HTML page, we by default we want 0 pixels and we want 0 margin and 0 padding. So when we want later for our each elements, we can define it here according to our needs and do it. Okay, is this clear, guys? So shall we wrap it up for the day? Any other doubts you have before we uh, close the session? I haven't done the day one assignment. Can we do it after the class? Yes, Raj, you can do it after day one. The last date is on October 4th, I guess. So you can do that and submit your assignment. Yeah. So shall we wrap up the class, guys? Tomorrow we'll learn about more CSS properties, right? We'll try to learn about a little bit of Flexbox also tomorrow, and a lot more properties. We learned the basics today. We'll see a lot of color properties related to color, background color, border, background shadow, box shadow, what we basically call. So we'll learn about all this kind of cool CSS tricks we have, right? We'll try to do all that tomorrow. Yeah, I hope you're excited for tomorrow's session. CSS property and container tag. Sir, assignment, should we take the screenshot or it will be shared again? Anish, it will be shared. It will also be posted in the community. Join the community. You'll also be emailed it about it. Don't worry. Richa Saxena, if you're not able to see the assignment, go to the community. We have posted the questions there. You can take it from there. Okay, don't worry. If you have any doubts, also you can tag me in the Let's Upgrade community, guys. I'll answer your doubts there. Not a problem. So what is over? What is over? This or something called pseudo classes. We'll see about that also tomorrow. That will be pretty good for you guys to learn. Pretty good animations we can do with that. We'll learn about it tomorrow. Yeah, guys. So if everything looks good, we can end this session. I'm stopping my screens here. Josna, I think we can end the session now.